Citi thank you points are very often, not often, all the time, valued below Chase and Amex, which in my opinion is wrong because you can do things like transfer to Choice or Turkish Airlines or Avianca Life Miles. Like it's all of the redheaded stepchildren that nobody wants to talk about, but offer really like amazing value. Those are Citi's partners.
Hey there, points people! You just heard a clip from Carissa Rawson from Just Plain Points. After leaving the Air Force in 2016, Carissa has spent the last 8 years traveling the world while talking about points and miles. You can find her freelance work at USAT, Upgraded Points, NerdWallet, Business Insider, Forbes, CNN, Award Wallet, and more. She's also frequently found at speaking events, including Frequent Traveler University, Zorkfest, and the Chicago Seminars. In this episode, expect to hear about why the Choice Hotel program is underrated, the best ways to transfer points for stays at Choice Hotels, how living at an all-inclusive hotel could be more affordable than your rent, and so much more. And if you are in the market for a new card to earn points so that you can travel like Carissa, check out geobreezetravel.com/cards. And if you're not sure what card is right for you, I offer free credit card consultations at geobreezetravel.com/consultations. Many of the links that we send out through the free credit card consultations and the GeoBreeze Travel website are actually referral links from our students in the Points Accelerator program instead of our own affiliate links. If you would like for us to send out your referral links in the future so that you can earn more referral points as well, join the Points Accelerator waitlist at geobreezetravel.com/waitlist. That way, you can be the first one to hear about when we open back up for enrollment. And we have the links to the free consultation form and the waitlist for you in the show notes as well. And now, on with the show. Welcome to the GeoBreeze Travel Podcast, a show for anyone wanting to level up their travel hacking lifestyle. I'm your host, Julia Menez. I'm a travel hacker, coach, speaker, Filipino-American ENTJ who loves solid travel gear and using shortcuts on spreadsheets. On this show, I'm on a mission to bring you travel hackers from all walks of life to help you level up your travel hacking game. We dive into credit cards, miles, points, strategy, mindset, and the secrets behind how to travel the world for next to no cost. So, let's get hacking. Hey, Carissa, welcome to the GeoBreeze Travel Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here and to talk about choice privileges, which I don't think we mentioned much on the show at all, but it's a very underrated program. So excited to dive into that today.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people take it for granted, which they shouldn't because it has tremendous value, not just like in the Americas or North America, but globally. It's got a lot of good options.
For sure. And I'm excited to dive into that. But before we talk about choice, let's talk about you. How did you get into the game of points and miles?
Oh gosh, I started, I want to say 2014. I was in the Air Force and I wanted to travel to Europe, and I had started clicking around and I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't want to pay for flights being on the West Coast. It was a couple, like over $1,000 for an economy class flight. And I learned about this little thing called points and miles. I got a BA credit card, which was my very first rewards card, which was not actually in retrospect a great idea for Europe. But as a service member, I very quickly realized that I had waived annual fees on everything and just went ham. I got a lot of different credit cards. I started my own personal blog. I was just writing about it and ended up doing a little bit of freelancing before joining the Points Guy full-time as a staff writer. I was there for a year and then started doing freelancing full-time as a writer again. And that's where I'm at now. I talk about points and miles all the time. I have some social media accounts. I do a lot of events, speaking, and things like that. So, yeah.
Fantastic. When did you start getting into choice hotels and why did you get into choice?
Oh gosh, I think my very first stay with choice privileges or using choice points was in 2018. And the reason I did that is because there's choice hotels and then there's Nordic choice, which is obviously Nordic, it's Scandinavia. And if anyone has ever been to Scandinavia before, they know that the cash price of hotels are just like outrageous, like hundreds of dollars a night for the cheapest, dinkiest little hotel. And I had seen, oh, sweet spot, Scandinavia. And it's true. I think my hotel would have been $300 a night after factoring in the exchange rate. And it was 12,000 choice points. And it included breakfast. It was like an incredible value. I have a Citi Prestige card, and so I transfer over at great value, and that's really where I got started with it.
For people who aren't familiar with the brand of choice privileges, what hotels kind of fall into that umbrella?
Oh, okay. Actually, they're growing. They historically have been like a mid-tier kind of it's budget towards to upper middle, right? They didn't have any flagships like St. Regis or Conrad or Waldorf or anything like that, but it's always been a very comfortable, solid middle tier hotel. They are growing. And they acquired in the U.S. The Radisson Hotel portfolio in the United States. So that actually did Radisson Blue. All of those are now the flagship. Otherwise, you've got like Clarion, Comfort Inn. I want to say Ascend Hotels, which is their like top tier brand before Radisson. Things like that. They're all over the place. They're like every time you're on a freeway and you see those signs, the road signs for that's choice. Yeah.
Yeah. They don't own Best Western. A lot of people are like, "Oh, like the Best
Oh,
Western hotels." Not that
no,
one. But they
no.
have Cambria Hotels,
Yeah.
Mainstays, Econo Lodge, Roadway Inn, Wood Springs Suites, Sleep Inn. I think you mentioned the Ascend
Mhm.
collection.
So
Yeah, a
good.
lot of those. Comfort
Just
Inn.
Yeah, Comfort Inn is really nice because they tend to be clean, they've got free breakfast, and they're a lot nicer than, say, the Roadway Inn, which is probably not one I would wanna stay at regardless, but Comfort Inn's good.
They own Quality Inn as well.
Yeah, Quality Inn is good, yeah.
A lot of the hotels where it's a make your own waffle thing in the morning.
Yeah, I love that personally, I'm all about the waffle maker.
A lot of people are like, "Is it worth it if I'm into points and miles? I don't really wanna stay at an Econo Lodge. Why is it underrated?"
Oh god, I mean, okay, so there are a couple of reasons aside from just the obvious points value of like choice hotels, like cash versus what the points you're redeeming, choice is so when we talk about like Marriott or Hilton or Hyatt, we talk about so much about like standard room rewards and like suites and suite upgrades and whether or not your status gets you an upgrade, blah, 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 right? Or whether or not your status gets you free breakfast and all of these benefits that you have. And Choice does have an elite program, but it's like middling, right? You're not getting an awful lot for it. But the cool thing is when you're redeeming points with Choice, they're not going to charge you extra for a better room type, and this includes suites. So you can and same thing for additional people in your room. And this is really handy when it comes to like Europe or Japan or Scandinavia, where those room occupancy limits or second person free is what you'll encounter a lot of the time with other brands. Choice is just like, I don't know, shove up to the room capacity, same amount of points. It's a flat rate. It's really cool. I stayed at, I want to say it was a Quality Inn just outside Disneyland, and it was 12,000 choice points a night. And it had it was a suite, just like the world's weirdest suite, and it fit 8 people with 3 queen beds and a sofa bed. It was weird looking, but it was so cheap and, like, such a great value just walking distance to Disneyland. So, it's honestly, it's so underrated, and, of course, like, so many of their properties offer free breakfast, so you never have to worry about if you have elite status, you've already got the benefits. You've got the suites and you've got the free breakfast.
Is it worth getting status with Choice Hotels at all?
No, they do I did they stat actually, they do status match you if you'd like. They will flat status match you from any competing chain, even if it's just like a hotel credit card elite status. It's once per lifetime, and it allows you to earn more points, and I think maybe a later checkout, and that's really it. Like, it's not something I've pursued because it really doesn't benefit you that much.
So it sounds like if you're traveling with a large family or a large group of friends, if somebody's
Mhm.
like, "I am hosting a bachelorette party or a bachelor party, and we need to
Yeah,
cram a lot of people into this Disney World hotel," or whatever hotel you're at, it's a great
yeah,
use case for that. It's
yeah,
not very expensive, so people who are just starting out can move points over there.
yeah.
What points can move over there?
Okay, so a lot of them. So we've got Citi. Depending on which Citi credit card you have, if you've got the Citi Premier card, your points will transfer at a 1 to 2 ratio. If you have any of the lower tier Citi cards, I think it's at a 1 to 1.5 ratio, which is better than Capital One, which is at a 1 to 1, and American Express, which is also at a 1 to 1. However, Wells Fargo just launched their autograph journey card, and that one includes choice privileges at a 1 to 2, just like City. So that's actually really cool that there's a competitor now in terms of transferring over to choice at that favorable ratio. And again, like when we're talking about transferring and redeeming your points, the fact that you can stay, for example, at a Disneyland walking distance hotel for something like 6,000 Citi points a night or 6,000 Wells Fargo points a night, like that's your next closest competitor is going to be the Hilton Homewood Suites, and that's costing you 55,000 points a night. So it's a really there's a huge discrepancy in the cost and the value of what you're getting. So,
Yeah, for a lot of people who are like, "I got a whole bunch of, like, Citi Premier points, Citi Strata Premier, like,
mhm,
what's the best airlines to move them to?" I often
just
tell people it might be good for hotel points. I know we
yeah,
tell people all the time, "Oh, get the Chase points if you want hotel points because you can move them to Hyatt," which is great,
mhm,
like, I'm a Hyatt girl, I love
yeah,
Hyatt, but if you're more of a budget traveler and you're just like, "How many physical hotel nights can I get for this if I'm
oh
just
my
on the
god,
road a lot, I do a lot of hiking, a lot of camping, not really
mhm,
looking for those super fancy Park
super
Hyatt ones?"
yeah. I mean, I would say as they've acquired Radisson in the Americas, it's also, for example, I stayed at the Radisson Blue in Chicago, which is a five-star hotel and normally is somewhere around 800-ish dollars a night. And I think it cost me 15,000 city points because of the favorable ratio. So they do, it's just a handful of them, you know? I would also like to throw out there, they used to have a much larger all inclusive portfolio. Now it's a lot lower, but there is one Don Julio all-inclusive resort in the Dominican Republic that you can book with choice points. And because they don't charge additional fees for additional guests, it's probably the coolest, best way to use your choice points because you can again book a suite with six people. I don't know anyone that I want to spend 6 nights with or six people in one room at an all-inclusive, but it is an option. And it's 30,000 choice points a night, which is just crazy for an all-inclusive.
Where is this all inclusive?
Dominican Republic, the Don Julio.
And that's the only one that's still left. They sold off
They
most
used
of
to
the
have,
hotel.
yeah, because they were partnered with AMR before Hyatt bought them. They technically say that they have a couple in their portfolio. There's like 5 or 6 of them. I've never found availability at the other ones, but the Don Julio is pretty reliably open for people to book.
Where
So,
are the other ones where it might be harder to get aboard availability? But if you can,
um, I think there's one in Mexico. There's a second one somewhere in the DR. I think it's one other one in the Dominican Republic, one in Jamaica, and a couple in Mexico. So if you Google like choice all inclusives, they have a dedicated landing page that lets you select from every single one that's available, and you can scroll through and try to find them and see if you can find that reward availability.
how far out can you book these?
So unfortunately, I would say that's well, it depends on how flexible you are. I would say that that's a downside for choice. You know, most hotel programs are going to be 11 months in advance or a year in advance. Choice is 100 days in advance just for award rooms. And obviously, if you're traveling with a family or if you have really solid plans and you can't be flexible at 100 days out, then that could be kind of a downside and maybe a reason not to book. But yeah, it's just 100 days in advance. You can book cash rates up like the whole year, but unfortunately not the choice privileges rooms.
You mentioned that Scandinavia is one of the sweet spots. Where else are some places that people really like to use choice points?
Okay, so Scandinavia, obviously top tier. You can also do Japan. I've booked and canceled like 12 Japan hotels with my choice points because you can cancel for free. The Park Hyatt became available. But it'll cost you just 8,000 points in Tokyo to stay at the Comfort Inn over there, which is incredible. Again, because Tokyo is so expensive, but they've got properties all over Japan. They also have a really nice option in Rome. I want to say again that's 10,000 points and somewhere I think near Lake Como. They've been really aggressively growing their portfolio. They also have a partnership with luxury preferred hotels, which is crazy because you can do things like book these. It's like if you're ever in like Europe and you see little plaques on these really fancy hotels, and they're like they have their own reward program, luxury preferred hotels, like leading hotels of the world, and they'll charge you something like 35,000, 40,000 points, choice points a night for a hotel in the Maldives. And again, if you factor in the really favorable transfer ratio from Citi or Wells Fargo, then it's like, oh, wow, that's cheap.
Because then it's like 15,000 or
Yeah.
20,000.
Right. And you think about that and you compare that, with any other Maldives property, even if you're lucky, you can get the Marriott Le Méridien Maldives for 35,000 or the Park Hyatt Maldives for 35,000. But these are smaller, more independent-esque hotels, which is pretty nice, for example, in the Maldives to give you a more boutique feeling.
I've heard that not only can you book really big suites with choice points, but you can sometimes also just rent out Airbnb style condos as well, where you're getting a one bedroom suite or a two-bedroom suite. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, it is actually. It's funny you mentioned that because I had totally forgotten about that. I did that last year. So the at Disney World. Same thing. It was a 2-bedroom condo. It was at one of those, like, it would be a timeshare resort. If you weren't using points, you'd have to go do the timeshare presentation. But the Blue Greens Fountain Vacation Resort in Orlando, they have them. And that's really nice. Obviously, again, if you're with family, you can, and it has a kitchen and it has laundry and it has like so much room. And of course, as a guest, you can enjoy all the amenities like the pools and things like that. So that's also another really good option for redeeming your choice points.
Tell us more about the Blue Green because that's one of those hotel chains that I think is just so under the radar. You have to be like deep into points to have ever heard of that.
I mean, honestly, like I was, so I was just trying to find somewhere really cheap at Disney World to stay, and I know that they have other properties that are available. That one just happened to pop up. I know when I'm looking for a points hotel, I'm always searching. I use Waze a lot of the time to find whether Hilton, Marriott, Choice, IHG, or Wyndham is going to be like the best value, and that one popped up. It was, I want to say, 30,000 points a night, and again, a 2-bedroom condo, two twins, 2 bathrooms, like two twins in one room, a king in the other, and you can presumably redeem that at any Blue Greens Fountain Resort, which is fantastic because, again, with the extended stay, you have the availability to park. It's not going to cost you extra to park. You can cook, you can clean, you can do your laundry and kind of create a home life while still spending very little. And it's nice, and it's nice. It's not budget. It doesn't feel mid tier. It feels exclusive and wow, incredible value. It's a nice thing to stay at. So.
How are you earning enough city points to do this? I know that it requires very few points, but you travel pretty much full time. Like
Constantly, yeah.
you're in a car right now.
I'm road tripping, but I'm in an EV, so I ran out of credit card sign up bonuses a long time ago after going ham in the military. That kind of wore me out. I don't have the City Strata Premier yet. I do have the City Prestige, which is no longer open to new applicants, but it earns me 5x on dining, 5x on air travel, and 5x on travel agency purchases. I dine out a lot of the time, so all of my spending goes on there. I don't have the new Wells Fargo autograph journey card yet, but that one is absolutely like on the top of my list with their 5 4 3 2 1 like rewards category structure that they have going on. And so being able to earn like from them as well will help me build my points. Other than that, I mean, I put so much dining, and I if I'm going to do like air travel, right, I kind of switch between the Amex Platinum or the City Prestige. And I don't do a lot of everyday expenses. That goes on a different card. But yeah, just general travel purchases and eating out, which I'm really like, I don't want to say I'm dating myself here. I'm really outing myself as a person who dines out because I'm like, oh, I use all these points strictly from eating out. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
For people who are not aware of what is the Wells Fargo 5 4 3 2 1 that you alluded to.
Okay, so Wells Fargo has debuted their first credit card with a transferable point currency. They're joining the likes of Capital One, Citi, Chase, Amex, Built, and they made a credit card that transfers to a handful of partners. They've got Avios, so it's like British Airways, Iberia, Qatar Airways. I mean, I guess it would be Aer Lingus and Finnair as well, but just that kind of ecosystem. They also have choice privileges, again, at that 1-to-2 ratio. The credit card has this, it's gimmicky, right?
So the Wells Fargo autograph journey card gets 5 points per dollar on hotels, 4 points per dollar on airlines, 3 points per dollar on restaurants and other travel, plus 1 point per dollar on all other purchases, and $50 annual statement credit with a $50 minimum airline purchase, which I'm pretty sure anybody listening to this podcast spends at least
Yeah.
$50 a year.
Yeah. It's a really good card in terms of, like, if you think of 5x on hotels, right? And even if you're a Hyatt girly or a Hyatt person, you compare that to the World of Hyatt card or the Chase Sapphire Reserve, you're going to be getting more points per dollar on that. And then again, if you're going to be staying at Choice Hotels, any additional expenses you put on there with the Wells Fargo card is going to get you 5x. So that's a really nice return. If you're conservatively valuing them at 2 cents each, which is my flat rate for any sort of transferable currency, that's 10% back.
It's a $95 annual fee, so I think it's very comparable to something like the City Strata Premier.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. The Chase Sapphire Preferred, I think the earning structure is a little outdated at this point, but yeah, something like that.
Are there any other tips and tricks when it comes to choice privileges or city points or anything else? Because I think it's one of the least talked about ones, possibly because City took away a lot of people's affiliate links, so therefore no one's incentivized to talk about City anymore.
I would say I think City points in general, you're right, are highly underrated, and especially since they nuked the City Prestige card. and obviously close it to new applications. So it's really not, or people will be transferring to Avianca Life Miles or something like that. But I think Choice, again, the fact that they are aggressively growing, I think I read a press release, I don't know, a year ago. It was a press release, so like grain of salt. But they're like, oh, we're the fastest growing hotel program in America, which seems ambitious. But it's honestly just, like I said, like I use a Waze when I'm searching for where to stay. And so what a Waze does is it allows you to put in specific dates for a location that you're wanting to stay. And it gives you award availability for each program, and it includes Choice, which a lot of Max My Point doesn't have Choice. I don't think Points yeah does either, like these other hotel award search engines, like Aways does, and it's really really helpful because it can give you a direct view into the points that you're redeeming, how they're valued. Like for example, like with Amex, which transfers over to Choice at a 1-to-1, and it also has Hilton, which is at a 1-to-2, right? So you get twice as many Hilton points, which kind of you would be like, okay, right, Hilton's known for being kind of more expensive, but it's not just double the price of what a Choice hotel is going to be. It's going to be triple, quadruple, maybe 10 times as much as a Choice hotel. So using something like a Waze to find hotels and compare them all at once. This is a tangential like tip, but using it to really determine the value while saving your time, that is a really helpful thing to do. Yeah. I don't want to harp on the Radisson thing, but they have when they again it's Radisson Americas. It's not just America. So it's North America, it's like Mexico, and it goes all the way down to I would say Central America. And they have a lot of really good properties in Mexico. I haven't booked any of them, but there's some talk online about ones that are like beachfront in Mexico, 5,000 choice points per night with free breakfast. And then when you factor in the fact that you can book the suites and you can transfer over to 1-to-2, it becomes kind of more affordable than paying rent. Honestly, like it's fantastic. Yeah, that's a good one.
We've talked with people on the podcast where they're
Hmm.
like, "Yeah, I just travel full time and I end up spending about $2,000 or so per month just living in hotels in Central America or Southeast Asia or places where hotels are pretty cheap." And they're like, "Yeah, but for $2,000, it's like an okay apartment in Chicago." Probably not an okay apartment in Chicago, actually.
So I'm based in San Diego, and I can tell you that $2,000 where I live is maybe a studio in an okay area, and that's as good as it's gonna get. You're usually looking at 2,500, 3,000 a month. So yeah, if you leverage it properly, and look, like I'm harping about redeeming your points at choice hotels, but even cash wise, a lot of the time, if excluding markets like Scandinavia, cash wise, they tend to be fairly affordable because they are mid tier focused. So that's honestly something, and if you have something like the Wells Fargo Autograph Journey card, it's absolutely worth looking into. Because what happens is when you stick with one hotel chain like Hyatt or Marriott or Hilton, and I've seen this a lot because obviously I travel all the time. But when you stick with one hotel chain, these American brands have a floor for their pricing of what they're going to charge you per night. So you end up somewhere that could be really cheap, and then all the local hotels are $10, $20, $30, and then the Sheraton is like 150 for no reason because that's their floor pricing. That's their bottom level that they're going to charge you. And people will stay there because of loyalty programs. I've been guilty. I've done that even when it made no sense. Choice doesn't really have that problem because they're not in that same sphere of where they feel like they need to charge at least $100 a night or something like that. They are generally very affordable hotels, and you'll find that globally. So even if you're paying cash, they're worth looking at. I mean, you don't have to earn elite status with them because it's not like a huge deal. But yeah, it could be a good option. So
Especially if you can book some of these through hotel portals as well or airline portals. Can you book choice hotels through something like the American Airlines portal and get airline miles instead of choice privilege points because you don't need those loyalty points if you're like, I'd rather have
yeah,
AA miles.
yeah, you can do that with choice. You can find them on there. Of course, there's a word of warning booking directly versus using a portal, especially with American. I'm sure you've talked about this, but of course, like the American Airlines portal, I'm on an instant status pass challenge with American. So every 4 months, I have to earn a certain amount of loyalty points to keep my status. And to do that, mostly, I'm just staying at hotels using the portal, which choice is on there. The trade off is that you end up paying a lot more in cash in order to earn those miles. And of course, the best miles that you earn with those ones is if you have both the credit card and elite status. It really increases the amount you'll earn per night. For me, it's worth it. And I think for a lot of people, it's probably worth it to be able to earn an increased amount of rewards and for a hotel that would normally be very affordable. So, yeah, choices on there. You have a look.
Yeah. That's another trick we tell people if you don't really care about hotel status and hotel points, you're like, I'm just gonna go for the cheapest hotel, or I like boutique hotels, or I just want to try out a whole bunch of different brands. But I'd really like to have my Alaska miles or my American
Yeah.
Airlines miles or whatever airline you're booking through
Mhm.
their portal.
Rocket Miles also is one of those for like Alaska Miles and things like that. I'm focused on American right now because I've got the status pass. I actually relevant. I actually had July 1st was my most recent deadline, and because I'm based in San Diego, I have a plethora of hotels from which to choose, and just walked myself to the hotel down the road, checked in. I was like, ah, yes, my new favorite hotel, and then just kind of looked at the room and checked back out. It wasn't a choice hotel because those ones are little. Those ones are like 10 feet away instead of 5 feet. So I went for the closer one. But yeah, it helps you earn a lot of miles all in one go.
And for everybody who's like, "Oh, can I just do, like, ghost stays where I, like, book a whole bunch of these to get American Airlines miles?" I think they're cracking down on that, right? Like, you physically have to show up and be like, "Hello, I'm physically here."
I will say that on my June 29th stay, which by the way was a double stay booked with my San Diego stay, when I went to Las Vegas on June 29th, I got credit.
For everybody who's just listening on audio, went to Las Vegas as in quotes.
Swear I flew to Las Vegas to check into the hotel and enjoyed my stay there deeply during the time that I was there. No, honestly, I was a little bit worried about it because it took a little bit longer to credit than I had anticipated, but it did credit me, even though I didn't rock up at all. So,
Yeah, I think a lot of people are trying this with the Rio to get their Hyatt Globalist status. That one does not work. You do physically have to show up, and you cannot just ask somebody who's local to Las Vegas to check in for you. You have to
that's
physically be there.
That's true. I actually have been using also the Rio to do that, but I am flying in. Frontier is direct and it's cheap from San Diego. Even I had my brother actually staying there one time, and they were very strict. They actually wouldn't even allow him to have the globalist breakfast without my ID. Couldn't charge it to the room. So that was an expensive lesson learned.
They are really cracking down on that not very
Mm.
special at all breakfast.
What are you talking about? That hash brown was honestly, it's not great. The
It's
room is a
not
lot
good.
better, but like because I ended up staying there once, actually physically staying there once. It was better because I got the renovated room. I was not expecting much, given it was the Rio. It was fine, and my brother, who's 18, said it was the nicest room he'd ever stayed in. So, which I don't know if that's a disservice to me as his sister or what, but that's fine. He was happy.
Did you know that that hotel used to be infiltrated with a well-established colony of feral cats?
Did it really?
Oh yeah, the Rio was like overrun with feral
I would
cats.
honestly, that's like a positive in my book. I would have loved to have stayed at the Cat Colony Hotel. I will appreciate my reminted globalist status thanks to the Rio.
Are there any partnerships with choice hotels where with Hyatt they partner with American Airlines and then with Marriott they partner with United where if you have Marriott Titanium you can get like
No.
United Silver choice of anything?
No. Unfortunately, because Choice I think is such an underdog, and they don't really focus on it because their elite status program is so middling. They're not focused on that. They're focused on people who are tired at 10 p.m. on the freeway. That's their core guest, their core demographic. And those people aren't signing up for the free rewards program at the desk. And again, the benefits that they already offer are something that you seek at a Hilton or you seek at a Marriott with your elite status, like the breakfast or the big rooms or things like that. I don't foresee that happening, honestly, with Choice. Again, I know that they're growing and I know that their market is moving more upwards with the acquisition of Radisson. But overall, I think that they know who they're selling to, and it's not bucket list travelers to the Maldives, which is a shame because it ends up flying under the radar, even though there are things like the preferred hotels and resorts partnership. But no, they don't have anything with any airline programs or anything like that.
More award space for everybody else because since it
Honestly,
is so under the radar.
right? I actually do have a couple of friends who ended up living in the all inclusive at the Don Julio, and they stayed for an entire month. And I think it cost them, gee, 30,000 points times 30 nights.
Yeah.
900,000 points, 450,000 city points. And that's for an entire month. That's pretty good for an all-inclusive stay, especially if you count in alcohol.
Oh, it
But
includes
yeah.
alcohol.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I haven't stayed there yet. I talk about this hotel constantly. I'm like, "Everybody, book the Don Julio. Get your suite." It's oh, you can get oceanfront or be like with a walkout, and they're still gonna charge you the same flat amount as if you were in like a double like a one twin room or a double twin room, like in the back of the hotel, which is wild. So,
Yeah.
have a look at it. Yeah.
And they have award space for doing this for an entire month at a time because it's so
Yeah.
under the radar?
They do have actually of note, choice technically goes they have variable pricing, right? And it's according to to demand. But their variable pricing is like 8,000 to 12,000, right? It's not like 95,000 to 1.2 million. It's a very low number overall as to what they'll charge you. And for example, the Don Julio can go 25 to 35. I think maybe one time I saw it at 40, but it's still quite low. And when you can compare it to other reward programs. So
Was this during hurricane season? I'm just amazed that
no,
this still exists.
no, people just don't clock it. People don't clock it because when you talk about hotel award programs, you're talking about the Hilton Honors American Express Aspire card, which gives you top tier diamond status, and oh my god, that could get you a suite upgrade if you ask nicely and they're happy that day. Or they're talking about Hyatt and the Globalist, which will upgrade you to a suite and gives you breakfast for 4 people, and that's incredible. But no one is talking about choice because it's not the bucket list properties, or it's not obviously the bucket list kind of properties. And again, I think you're right because the affiliate links have been pulled. And honestly, the Citi Thank You Rewards program has been, it looked like Citi was going to give up. Honestly, before they refreshed into the Citi Strata Premier, it looked like Citi was like, I don't know. I mean, they got rid of their like their high end card, which was competing with the Chase Sapphire Reserve and the Amex Platinum. They just got rid of it and didn't offer a replacement. They have the Citi Premier, which is a mid tier card, but just nothing was happening. They kept nuking the benefits and not providing anything else. So I generally thought that Citi was on its way out in terms of as a transferable point currency. I think it's going to bounce back. I hope it's going to bounce back. But because of that, and it being the only one, which is really very valuable for Citi transfers, now Wells Fargo, it's maintained its kind of mystique, its aura of emptiness in the way that maybe points and miles were back in the day.
I think Citi doesn't even allow referral links either. If somebody was just like, "Oh, I'll just tell my friend about it," it doesn't even spread by word of mouth because no one's incentivized to talk to it, so it does go under the radar.
And it's wild. And you'll also see all of the websites that do point valuations. City thank you points are very often, not often, all the time, valued below Chase and Amex, which in my opinion is wrong because you can do things like transfer to Choice or Turkish Airlines or Avianca Life Miles. Like it's all of the redheaded stepchildren that nobody wants to talk about, but offer really like amazing value. Those are City's partners.
2 of those stepchildren that you talked about, Turkish and Afghan, have terrible websites, and I usually dissuade people from going to
They
those
do?
when they're first starting out.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
advanced people go
Oh yeah.
for it.
Oh yeah.
Beginners where they're like, "I heard I can go to Europe or Portugal for, like, 35,000 points." I'm like, "Yeah, but do some deep breathing before you try."
Yeah, it's I think that you're absolutely right on that. Whenever people are starting and oh my god, if they have one travel date on which they can go and they're like, I need to leave on June 12th, but they tell you on May 10th, I need to leave on June 12th. I want to fly business with my family of 6. And I'm like, good luck finding a word space. The website's clunky, it errors out. It might be Phantom. There might be some and it doesn't even show you. Like it's definitely not for the faint of heart and God forbid you have changes or cancellations.
Oh, if you have to switch up something on a Turkish Airlines flight, if you misspelled your middle name, good luck.
Nah, bro. No, just try and get on the plane, honestly. Just hope. Done my fair share of redemptions with both of them because I have the patience. Because I know in the end it's worth it. But I know for most people, I would even say at the intermediate level, it's not worth the anxiety and frustration that it will cause you. But on the flip side, Avianca charging you 63,000 miles one way for a business class in United to Europe versus United charging you 88,000 or more. You see the value. You just have to it's a trade-off, right? What's your opportunity cost?
How is the tech experience when booking with Choice? Hotels are
Easy.
usually easier.
It's so easy. I mean, their website is not as beautiful as other ones, and sometimes there's no glitches, there's no Phantom award space, there's no calendar view either, which is annoying. But because you can only book 100 days out, really, it's like you only have to click through 100 days instead of like 300. but it's simple, and it's when it presents the results, what's interesting is it will give you the option, like when redeeming points, it'll give you the option for the crappy room. And you have to keep scrolling, and it'll be like 8,000 points, worst room, 8,000 points, medium room, 8,000 points, deluxe suite, 8,000 points, oceanfront villa. And you just have to like, and then, but it's really easy. It's not problematic. There are no IT issues or anything like that.
And even though it doesn't have the award calendar, you could always just use a Waze like we
Yeah, you
mentioned.
can use the Waze. Yeah, it's a Waze is so helpful. Like Max My Point is my go-to for if I want to stay at a hotel and I don't care when, because you can look up a whole calendar like all at once. But a Waze is so helpful if you have a weekend trip somewhere and you have a lot of different transferable point currencies and thus can stay at many different hotels and want to know what the best value is. And spoiler alert, it's usually choice. But yeah, it's really cuts down on your time and your effort.
I use them for Hyatt all the time because the Hyatt points calendar on the Hyatt website will tell you, oh, this day is off peak, this day is peak date, but it doesn't actually say whether there's any rooms available. And a Waze will gray out all the dates where they're like, it's sold out, don't try.
I have a lot of opinions about the Hyatt Points calendar because there was so much fuss made when it debuted, and everyone was like, "Finally, just like Hilton, just like Marriott, flexible calendar." And it was like, "Oh, actually, it's not live. It's just whether or not it might be peak or it might be award or off peak." And yeah, and it's not reflective of actual availability, so is therefore useless. Thanks.
Yes, accurate. Yeah, that's why I just
Yeah.
use a Waze instead, where people have commented this all the time on my videos where they're like, Hyatt has a whole bunch of like Phantom availability. I'm like, that's not a good look for a hotel.
It's just a calendar. Honestly, Hyatt, I do love Hyatt. I am a recurring globalist, and I stay there as much as I can. I stay at the Rio all the time too, but I would say in terms of IT that they are behind the likes of Marriott, for example, who lets you do. I guess Hyatt does pay your way on some things, but Marriott I think has probably the most useful website. Their app sucks, but they most have the most flexible website for bookings. Yeah.
Fantastic. As we wrap up here, any other last thoughts on the choice program, choice privileges, Citi or Wells Fargo, or anything else that people should keep in mind?
Yeah, I do want to say actually, so be aware. So there's choice and then there's Nordic choice. When you're searching for hotels in the Scandinavia region, that is technically a separate program, but your points are just like Avios or Avios. You can just transfer between. So if you're looking for hotels in that region, make sure you're looking on Nordic choice and not choice. Other than that, again, it's always worth looking. The hotels are clean. Even if you are usually a luxury traveler, it's worth looking because the value is there, the space is there, the benefits are there. Even like the Cambria, for example, in Disneyland, which is 20 to 25,000 points a night, comes with a water park for your kids, and that's really cool. So they have those kind of in some of the bigger Hilton hotels that have ginormous resort pools and stuff, and that's also an option at choice, even though they're mainly oriented toward like mid or budget travelers. So it's always worth looking.
Great tips. And
Yeah.
speaking of great tips, can you give a shout out to somebody else on the internet who you would recommend listeners follow for even more points and miles tips?
Okay, so Tim of Roame.travel is probably one of my favorite people. If you guys haven't found Roame yet, it's Roame. Launched like a year and a half ago, and it exploded onto the scene. Right, it's airline searches that are faster and more comprehensive than Point Me, essentially, and for less. They've got like Skyview, which is cached results like Seats.aero, but like just massive. And it's beautiful in a way that Seats.aero isn't. So Tim at Rome, absolutely fantastic. I would say follow him. And he does, I don't know how he sleeps, how the man sleeps, because he has this insane Facebook group where he posts all of these deals he finds constantly. He does it on Facebook for free, which no one else just gives it to you for free. He emails it to you for free. And he also does a TikTok where he posts them all for free, like live, real time, sought after award availability, costs you nothing. So again, I don't know when he sleeps, but he's a good guy and the website's very useful.
And they don't even have much of a staff. I think it's like him and one other guy, and all of
It
these
is.
deals are on
I guess.
Instagram as
I know.
well.
I've spoken to him a couple of times, and the last time I was like, "Hey, congratulations," and he's like, "Thanks. I work like 90 hours a week," and I was like, "I can tell. It's reflective for a website that's just over a year old. You can tell. Like it's incredible. So the growth is incredible."
Yeah, if anybody's like, "Oh, I wanna get in on one of those, like, newsletter alert deals," follow Rome on Instagram, subscribe to their newsletter because all of it is free. He's just like, "Hey, Found this deal to Japan. Click on it. It'll take you to the Roam website. It's all free.
I know, and it's wild when you compare it to other ones that are behind that are gated, right, for paid users only. The fact that he's providing that without charging you a dime, he's a cool guy. It's a cool site.
Yeah, fantastic. And where can people find you on the internet as well?
I am just plain points, Plane, like an airplane. I have Instagram and I have TikTok. I'm also, if you guys want to follow the Level Up Facebook group, it's a private group for points and miles. I'm the admin over there. But but it's a fun lot of points and miles stuff. So it's good.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Carissa,
Yeah.
for joining us on the GeoBridge
Yeah.
Travel Podcast. Thank you for sharing about a program that we don't talk about very often because we all love Hyatt, we all love
Mhm.
Air Canada and all those, but we've had like 15 episodes on that. So thank you for talking about a much
Yeah.
more under the radar program.
Absolutely. Yeah. I get the word out at my own risk since probably all the availability is going to disappear. But you know what? I believe in teaching people and educating people because it's not snake oil. Points and miles are real and they can get you just insane value and insane vacations that you otherwise wouldn't be able to have. So happy to be here.
Thank you. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the GeoBreeze Travel Podcast. If any of the cards mentioned in today's episode piqued your interest, please check out the links in the show notes for more information on any of the cards. Also, if you apply for a card using the links on that page, I may receive a commission too, so please and thank you. P.S. I hear the links work better in Internet Explorer or Safari, and sometimes the credit card applications tend to glitch out in Chrome. Additionally, it would mean the world to me if you could subscribe to this podcast, leave a 5-star review, and share it with a friend. And if you would like to make even more travel hacking friends, please sign up for the Patreon to access our monthly masterclass hangouts. We dive deep into a particular points program each month, and you'll get to ask all of your travel hacking questions and enjoy being around other people who enjoy points and miles just as much as you and I do. If you would like an invite to the next one, head over to geobreezetravel.com/hangouts to sign up to be on the invite list. Take care and happy travels!